So I was saying to myself before I even recorded this episode, man, this setup's going way too easy, way too good. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? I'm here. I've made it after a night of drinking. It's going to be a good episode. Everybody's on fire and talking. And then what happens? The fucking mixer breaks. Good news is the content definitely outweighs the shitty sound. I'll get better next time. Sorry, guys.
All right, guys. What's up, everybody? Blockhead Nation here. This is episode 11. We have our good friend and fitness mogul, Jeff Moulton with MMB Fitness here today. And how are we doing?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited to chat a little bit and kind of go over a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. We're going to talk about how sore we are from yesterday's race. We'll talk about what Jeff's into right now, what's brought him to that point, and it's going to be a fantastic conversation. I think you're going to learn a lot. So, without further ado, Jeff, so what brought you here? How did you meet Don, first of all?
So I think it's funny. Me and Don, we didn't really hang out in high school. We weren't really like close or anything like that, but we did go to Drury together, right? So I think growing up, me and Donny were never that close or hung out, but we knew of each other, and that was the type of thing. But I think what kind of grew together, get us to this point today, is that as we got older into our 20s, getting to the 30 range, I think just our values or our mindsets kind of became more alike. And I think that's that's the positive of social media. I think that's what brought us together is, me posting motivational stuff or my fitness content. We did the race we're going to talk about. I think that's a big reason why I try to post and do a lot of that stuff, because you kind of find who you actually are like with, where in high school we might have had similar things, or maybe we're at that time, I know we were into different things, but
yeah,
I think that
partying.
Right, you were partying like crazy, and I was kind of like the insecure kid that wasn't really close with anybody, but kind of close with just like me and a couple people. But I got along with everybody. But I was super insecure, wasn't confident. Me and Dan, I don't remember Dan Gamache. I was like, me and him were like the skinny two kids that just really didn't do anything besides play video games. And I hung out with Andy Gilvey and stuff like that.
Gilvey and like Josh and those guys. Yeah. Well, what's funny though is to rewind back even further. I remember when I first met you when we were in Little League.
Yeah,
and you were like the best player in the whole league, and right. You were he was like the fastest kid in the whole league. So Jeff has always stood out from that. It's weird. It's funny actually you saying that. You're vulnerability.
That's good.
Because everybody, including all my friends, and even leading up to this, I spoke to some of my friends, including Hayden, who was with us yesterday. We'll get into the Spartan Race. We all looked up to you when we were in Little League, so dude, this kid's nasty. He's incredible. He's the fastest kid in the league. He's stealing bases left and right. He's freaking hitting home runs and stuff like that. You want, please?
All right. I'm going to second that. Just ever since I've met Jeff, he's been in the gym, right? I haven't known you for more than probably 8 years, just in passing. More recently, we've got closer into the Spartan Race. But the guy's always stood out physically. So it's cool that your life's gone that way.
Yeah.
Right?
No, and I appreciate that. And I think something that with those comments too, it's, fitness has been something that it's allowed me to build confidence and feel better about myself. And I think a lot of the stuff that I post and do, that's the point behind it, is to try to find, my phrase is chase discomfort, try to get uncomfortable through fitness. I think most people grow the most mentally through fitness. You learn the most about yourself through being uncomfortable. Growth comes from being uncomfortable. And that's fitness, these races that I do, put you in an uncomfortable spot. But even back in the day, I didn't start working out until I was 19. And that was because I was sick of being the insecure, scrawny kid and going to the gym, just playing with weights. And eventually, that's where all the confidence came. It's ooh, I'm starting to get stronger. Ooh, I look a little bit better. Get more attention from girls. I got LASIK at the time, so glasses went away. Mm-hmm. So fitness, that's why I love fitness, because it gave me confidence in everything I started to do. And then my life only got better as I got into fitness. Mm. Because I think, and I don't think it was going to the gym necessarily. I think it taught me a lot of discipline, but I think confidence in that self-belief that I'm look what I can accomplish. And I think the underrated thing with fitness is you have complete control of it. And that's what I love about it. Is like you won't have a boss that can inhibit your growth. Like you go to the gym, you put in the work, you get the result. You eat the food, you get the result. So, and that's super rewarding.
What a great perspective, right? I mean, it just really puts your success in your own hands. And
so actually, I just want to say too, Rudy and I, when Rudy was still in Berkshire County, I met Jeff probably around the time Rudy did back in like 2011, 2010, and you referenced how when you started working out when you were 19, that would have been that'd be the retro fitness days. So so we're getting into some history here. Retro fitness is probably where you really started hammering it, because I think we'd see each other there. And Rudy and I used to be just weight heads and lift weights. And Rudy
still me head. At any place I can go and pick up a barbell, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
And it goes to the mindset, right? Like Kyle, you and I have been lifting since we were in high school.
Sure.
Like, I wasn't short of confidence, probably because of that, right? In high school. And so, I mean, if there's one thing I could say just to listeners or viewers is, if you haven't stepped foot in the gym, you're missing out. If you haven't tried to exert yourself to a place of discomfort, you're missing out, because it just makes you better. It makes you more confident in yourself and your own abilities. It gets you more mental clarity. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best. So the best thing about having Jeff on today is he'll talk about his different pool of clients, and I think Jeff is definitely he's a really humble, down-to-earth guy. So what that allows him to do is it allows him to support those who are maybe not in the best physical shape, or who, getting a little deeper, may have insecurity about going to the gym and doing all that stuff, because it's hard. It's hard to do when you're not maybe naturally or physically gifted.
Or doing it for the first time.
Born that way, born athletic, or doing it for the first time. And Jeff is actually a great, from what I can see from a distance too, and just on Instagram and all that stuff, he's really positive. So Jeff Moulton is a fitness expert at this point, I'd say, for sure. You're far in your career now.
Well, look at what he did to Donny's abs.
Just some nice abs. You probably had the best abs of the group.
That was
100% the best abs of the group, man.
My friends were messaging me, giving me shit. They're like 1, 2, 3.
That just reminded me of Step Brothers.
It was a good
when the brother Derek.
Yeah.
He's like, he lifts up his shirt.
I oil these with Keel. Did you say that?
Right.
Guys, I haven't had a carb since 08 or whatever. Okay,
so the camera panicking with the abs. Yeah, it's just good.
I appreciate that, guys. They were great lighting a lot. Gina might have used some AI generated photo or something like that to hype me up, but I think it boils down to personal responsibility, and it's really cool to hear you say that, Jeff, because I honestly wasn't exactly sure when you got into fitness, and it's interesting to know that it was right after high school, because obviously we kind of, and a huge part of my identity for the longest time, and I talk about it on here, and I should delve deeper into it when the moment's right, but a huge part of my identity for 15 plus years was just drinking alcohol and being somebody who could drink a lot and party with the best of them and be a shithead, whatever the hell you want to call it. But, it's interesting to know you were looking for that. And going back to Kyle's point, you can relate to your clients because you were once that person.
Right.
And I think that's very interesting, because there are certain people who just always played sports, just were kind of good at everything. And you were pretty good at sports.
He had a good base too, though. He was athletic. He wasn't just
absolutely, but it's just cool to see that, and then, like I said, be a good mentor for people in that regard. And obviously, Jeff took me on. I don't know if people know this, but I made it live on camera. I figured I'd wait for the podcast, but Jeff has been training me for free for the last 3 months. So this whole six pack, whatever, the Spartan Race, whatever the hell you want to call it, is it's a result of his kindness and his passion for this, and to see something in me where he's like, I know that he's trying to do something better through this platform. Because the platform of Blockhead Nation is to try to get better through the building blocks, which we'll go through. Ask Jeff what his favorite one is.
Jeff supported us big time.
From the beginning.
Building off of that, and honestly, he is a blockhead. So Jeff has been somebody that's been on the bubble for a while. He supported us. Ryan and him are communicating. Ryan has been always an athlete, and really looks great now. And we were talking about how I said he looks so much different than he did a month and a half ago. But that's because of Jeff and his regimen and just what he's taught him and what he's educated him on. But what this is really cool, because you're seeing here Jeff is a physical manifestation of Blockhead Nation growing and how it reaches out to people. And he identified with what Blockhead Nation is. And that's hard work and commitment and something I'm trying to get better at too. But you're really, that's what you've been for a long time. So when we popped up, you were really gracious to just insert yourself with us.
No, and I appreciate that. And it's one of those things. It's like you brought up with the journey side of it. Is I think you have to we'll use your gratitude side of it. It's something I've been trying to practice more is the gratitude side. Mm-hmm. And I think trying to be grateful, trying to appreciate what you have. And I think what happens a lot, and I've dealt with this over the last couple of years trying to build my business, is sometimes you lose track of what you're doing and you're chasing money. And in this personal training's customer service. That's what it is. Deliver amazing customer service and genuinely try to be in it for the right reasons with the right people, try to help the right people. And then, if you're there from them, you're keeping them on track and you have good systems in place, they'll get good results. But being grateful enough and being humble enough to be okay, you said, you did your, Jeff's helped me with this, Jeff's helped me with this. But at the end of the day, there's a big difference between you did the work, right? And how many people know how to go to the gym, go work out, lift weights, eat better, you'll get results, but the majority of people don't get it.
And the information's out there.
The information's out there. So my coaching, that's the one thing I like to just I admit I'm not the best coach in the world. I've been coaching for 12 years. I got a bachelor's and master's, certifications, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, the one thing I learned, it's just building relationships with people, trying to stay close with people, support you. How can I help you? And that's an important part of this whole process. So yes, I have to help you get there, but at the end of the day, you have to put in the work.
It's adjacent to sales in a way because it really is sales when you're trying to push people in that way. But I actually have a cool story that popped in my head. I want to tell it before I forget it. See Kyle looking at me with those gazy eyes.
2 hours later.
So, no, it's a really quick story. I'll try my best to be quick. Feel free to cut me off. Kyle will definitely.
I'll
No, so I was doing a lighting appointment, doing a lighting audit for my job with Energy Source, and I was speaking with the individual who showed me through the property, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I was like, I'm doing this. I have a personal trainer, and I'm doing this thing, and I have an app called MyFitnessPal, and it's really helped me lose some weight. I've already lost 5 pounds. This was right at the beginning, right? And the guy's like, "Oh, that's really cool. I've done something like that. I really want to get into that." And I'm like, "Oh, well, it's right here. See, I type in, keto bread, and then it comes right up, and there it is." And he's like, "Oh, that's awesome. Maybe I'll try it." And never thought anything of it. 2 months later, we're talking on a follow-up call to see if he's interested in the project. And at the end of the call, he goes, "Hey, Brian, I wanted to tell you something." And I go, "Oh, what's up?" And he goes, I actually downloaded MyFitnessPal. That's so funny. But he goes, I downloaded MyFitnessPal, and I've actually lost 11 pounds.
It's awesome.
So
11 pounds?
Yeah, the guy lost 11 pounds.
How long what was the time period?
It was only probably a month and a half, 2 months. But I explained it to him too. I just said, "Hey, listen, you want to find your calorie deficit?" I basically regurgitated what Jeff taught me. And the moral of the story is that, Jeff, I don't think you realize, obviously somebody like me put the work in, but how many people you actually affected. You affected me, but then that affects change, and it has almost like a domino effect, right? Where it affects all these other people. And I've even been able to my cousins had reached out to me for some advice, and obviously that guy had a good experience, and I'll continue to pay that forward from the information that you taught me. So I just wanted to say thank you and tell that story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even from a motivational standpoint, now I got to do abs all the fucking time. That is fucking rough up, dude.
Right. Those are good pictures.
Well, I think too, everyone, we were talking about this a little before we got on, and I think it's surrounding yourself with the right people is the most important piece of the puzzle, whether it's a coach, whether it's people you want to be around. And that's something in my mid to late 20s, I started to do a lot more of. So backtrack a little, when I started, you talked about retro. Retro was when I was 20 years old, loved fitness, got into it.
Retro was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a great lift. So I loved it. But what was cool is I met a guy named Glenn Del Reyes, he was a Canadian Olympic coach. And he kind of took me under his wing for a year from 21 to 22. And I'd work out with him, but he was so positive, and he just saw something in me, and he believed in me so much where other people would kind of put me down when I first started working out, because it's you're the skinny kid or this and that. And I know you had like all these positive like look up to when I was younger and into good athlete. But it's funny because like at that time I just saw all the negatives. I was a very negative person, pessimistic person, and it's crazy because your mindset plays such a big factor in that. But then when he kind of started to believe in me, I was like, oh, he's like, you should get your certification, man. You're naturally just helping people in the gym. And I think that was those little things when I was younger of like, I know what it felt like to kind of feel left out. So I want to make you better. I want to help you feel better. And then to your point,
how important is it to have a mentor?
It's huge. It's huge. You need someone to believe in you. Like it starts with you, right? It's no different. Like you can't have, someone else can't, they can believe in you all you want, but you have to start to believe in yourself as possible. Sure. And then having someone there when you have tough times to help get you out of that hole is huge. And that was a huge stepping stone for me. That translated to go and get my certification. And then I started my associate's degree and I finished that. And then my professor at Berkshire Community College, Sherry Shearer, was like, I'm like, Sherry, I sat down in her office. I'm like, I'm lost. I got my certification. I don't know what to do. And she's like, I see you doing your bachelor's, maybe even your master's. And I see you, helping more people. So that she believed in me. Next person in line.
Awesome.
Do my bachelor's degree. Finished up my bachelor's degree. That's when I was competing in bodybuilding. I was chasing down winning my pro card and this whole thing. And all that self-belief.
Do you feel like that coach that you described was the catalyst all that?
I think Glenn was that turning point because I worked out for fun, but I didn't have someone that was just like took me under their wing. And it was in the moment I didn't see that. You have to look back to actually see someone taking you under their wing. In the moment, I'm like, dude, I like this dude. He's doing things no one else is. And everyone at the gym's like, dude, this guy's crazy. Like not in a bad way, but just like doesn't fit into Berkshire County at the time. And I'm not putting down Berkshire County, but there just wasn't a lot of people talking about making it big. Like, wow, you're working with the Canadian Olympic team. I don't know anybody that does that. And he built all that way up, all from Sherry, then to Sherry, and then competing in bodybuilding, and then having people that competed in bodybuilding that I knew that were pros in the sport. Then all that excitement left me to like, I'm going to move to Boston with 3 months rent and I'm going to figure it out. And then
it really built up your confidence.
It did. All that.
Even to take that jump to move to Boston, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a good friend of mine, Benjamin Franklin, I think once said that if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget what he said. I mean, rest in peace.
I think I met somebody very recently that said that. I feel like it makes all the difference in the world when one person treats you like you haven't been treated before, because whether it's especially a coach, a friendship's great, but like you want somebody that's accomplishing things, and when you're pursuing an endeavor, that's gonna see things in you that you wish other people saw that you knew you had, but when other people aren't seeing it, you're just gonna be at a constant state of like deflation and
self-doubt or whatever.
Or opens you up to a perspective that you didn't have before.
I've had that happen in my life.
And that's just good coaching. And and when you have a coach that can relate to you in a way that you look up to them, then...
That reminds me of Gary Campbell. I mean, I played basketball my whole life, and I was good, right? But like, I was always frustrated because I wasn't maybe getting the attention I wish I got from the all-star coaches or whatever. And then Campbell just sees an athlete. And he does that for so many kids. I mean, he was like, he had me running reps with varsity as a sophomore. I went from never playing football to, he turned me into a receiver like nothing. It's just when people see that, but there's no age cap on it.
Right.
We should still strive to do that with people now.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. I was going to ask Jeff if there was any like specific, clientele that you could feel like sharing, even if you use John Doe's, that had like, you've seen something in them that you maybe, they might have not seen themselves, or maybe it's just a general question. Like, what do you see people changing into? Are they more confident individuals?
I think that's my number one goal. It used to be as a coach, because you're taught in school, like, write an amazing program, build out 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, write the best program in the world. Here's the best nutrition program. Like we did, macros and calories with you. Yep. But so I went back to school a few years ago and went back for my master's in sport and exercise psychology. So mental performance. And, it's meant with athletes, but a huge part of it is with people. And you realize as a trainer or a coach, it has zero to do with your programming. It really does. At the end of the day, you have to get that person to believe in themselves as fast as humanly possible, and then implement a strategy to have steps of how you can get them to do that. So like with coaching, it's like, how do I set these realistic, small daily goals and habits and help you change daily behaviors to show you through exercise that you can believe in yourself? Because you accomplish all these little things. So when you say about like what clients I look for, like what I'm trying to do or that kind of realm, I would say like when I take on a client, like pretty quick, like their confidence in what they are. So I try to find people that are in that process of like, they're ready for a change, but they need someone to help take them over their step. And the coolest people, and that's the coolest thing, because if they're not mentally ready to change, no matter what I do, they're not going to do it. Yep. And that's a tough client, because like, you want to help them way more than they want to help themselves.
Sure.
But like I have a few clients. My favorites are like, I'm 3 months in with people and they're down 15 to 20 pounds. I work with a lot of women that have like these eating disorder tendencies, because they're scared of carbs, they're scared of calories, they're scared of putting on too much weight. And, like my wife, like she's very open with this. She had an eating disorder when we met, and she would not eat for 3 or 4 days, and then she'd work out like crazy. So like when we met, she was eating like 1,100 calories a day. Now she's eating almost 2,000, and she tracks her food, but there's no negative behavior behind it now. It's like, I'm allowed to have this much food. If I want to go over a little, it's okay. But I think watching people the people that I see the biggest change from is when food is no longer like a negative or a positive. It's not good or bad. Food is food. Yes, like in general, are Cheetos not great for you and they're ultra processed? Of course. But can you have them? Of course you can. You just have to be mindful of that. So when you have all these people like demonizing things as this is bad, this is bad, this is cancer, this is this. It's like, it's all about the dosage. It's all about how much you're eating. You can have everything in moderation. Like energy drinks people hate on all the time. Like I'm having one right now. Are they the best thing in the world for you? Of course they're not the best thing in the world for you, but like in moderation, you're okay. Yeah, so I think so when I have clients, I want to teach them that balance and get out of the good and bad. And those are the clients that are so rewarding when they're down weight or they're eating better and they have a better, like just they approach life with a low stress around food.
It's nice that you didn't become like some elitist gatekeeper.
No.
Because you see often people gatekeep stuff because they have their hardcore, like, it becomes their personality to the point where it's too, like they boast with it, or they just take it too seriously, or they just don't see the potential in other people because they don't feel comfortable or whatever it is. But I mean, you want to be able to open.
That's not even a good coach, right?
Yeah.
A lot of coaches are bad coaches.
Yeah, sure.
How many players don't thrive because of a coach? It's just,
and social media will do that too. Like if you have a big following, you don't have to be a good coach.
Right.
Like I don't have a huge following, but like it's one of those things where I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to be like, this is the keto trend. This is how you can get results. I'm not going to do the carnivore, the paleo, because all that stuff is trendy. It all works. Like if you go vegan, it works. You're going to eat more whole foods. But it's like, why are all these things working? And like, what's the deeper level? And is it sustainable? Like you brought up like the success of clients. If you can't, whatever you're starting to do, if you can't do it the rest of your life, then we shouldn't even be doing it in the first place, because it's not sustainable. So you don't have to track the rest of your life. But with Donny, like for 3 months, we tracked. I'm hoping after 3 months, now you can be like, I have a good concept of portion control, how much protein I'm eating, am I eating enough fiber for gut health, my carbohydrates are on my workouts, my performance is good. So now no longer you can track, and you can just move on with life and have a better idea of nutrition. And at the end of the day, like if you do want to track, because it's helpful, now you can do it. Yeah. And that's how I approach my coaching.
Kyle, again, well said, it's like, there's so many people who are gatekeepers of knowledge and they're not willing to share it with people. And you were willing to do it so generously with me. And now I have that knowledge moving forward that not only can I use for myself if I want to train for a race or bulk or whatever that we spoke about, I can now do that. And I may or may not even need, the additional guidance. And to stack on top of that, to go back with what I said earlier, I can also show those exact same things and just regurgitate that knowledge and information and those awesome building blocks, if you will, that you taught me, and pass those on to other people, which I already had with it in a few cases, which is amazing. And I tell all my friends and family and anybody that I can about the things that you would show me.
What's up, everybody? Sorry to interrupt your podcast listening. Donny here. Just wanted to take a few seconds out of your day to mention our sponsors. But first, check out the apparel. This is the zip-up hoodie. Any of the Blockhead apparel guys you see us wearing, you can also own too. Just message us on any of our social media platforms. And when you do buy the apparel, make sure to post it on your social media with the hashtag BlockByBlock, and we'll be sure to share it on our stories. Now first, we have Gilly Puck. Hunting just got tactical. That is the best
hunting apparatus in the game. You can find those guys at gillypuck.com. Now, second, we have Jiu-Jitsu Gel, a little bit of a tongue twister. You can find those guys at typec3.com. That is type, full word, one letter C, 3.com. That is a performance enhancing supplement that will help you roll around on the mat, put people in a headlock, guillotine, elbow drop, any of that stuff. It is a great, great thing, and that's rolling out as we speak. Last but certainly not least, we have the Tack Room Restaurant in Lincoln, Massachusetts. Those guys are awesome. Chef Dan's Creations over there. Great cuisine, great environment. Check those guys out at tackroomlincoln.com. Thank you, and let's get back to the show.
Are there any, real, me out of it, we did a few months. It was great, obviously.
Sure.
But are there any, real
Not
success?
right, man.
Yeah. Are there any real success stories that were, you're, really proud of it? Where you saw something in that person, they were ready for change? I don't want to skip over you saying that, because people have to be ready to change. You can have the best coach in the world, but I think a few years ago I made a decision that I was ready to change my health and my diet, and I try to kind of do it myself. And then we kind of crossed paths because maybe I was seeking something like that, and then it worked out. But you have to seek mentors. You have to seek somebody to say, okay, I don't have the keys to the castle. I need to learn a little bit more to get to that next level. And that's where it came across you. But so where were some of those symbiotic relationships where somebody was ready, and then you feel like it was a true success story from you, being a personal trainer and basically a nutrition? Well,
my big thing is, one of my favorite ones, and this one was 5 or 6 years ago. And it's funny because I do, all the bodybuilding stuff, and not anymore, but these ultra Spartans and stuff like that. And so I'm very performance-based with my training, right? But the thing is 99% of my clients are the general person that just wants to get healthy. And I had one woman who, she was in her 230 pounds, but she was 5'2", 5'3". So she was a big girl. She was overweight. She struggled, just with through anxiety, depression, food was her comfort. So breaking that habit of her of getting out of that food is comfort and trying to drop the body fat. But the whole reason we even started is, she goes, my doctor doesn't feel safe or want me to get pregnant until I can drop 50 pounds. So it's that's crazy. So going through a 6-month journey with her, getting her to drop, I think we got to 47 pounds. And now the next thing you know, she can have a kid, she can get pregnant, and she's in a health, her cholesterol is lower, blood pressure is lower, better resting heart rate, better cardiovascular health. She's now grateful, hey, I can have a kid and I'm not stressed going in it. My doctor isn't worried about all these triglycerides and all these different numbers that are just not in a great spot. So those transformations are 100 times. So 100 times.
She had a kid now?
She does.
That's
so
amazing.
it's cool. So she got pregnant, which was amazing. Yeah. But that's the fun stuff, and that's why I never got into working with athletes, because taking someone with tough health, or someone that isn't great overall, in the health marker, isn't feeling good about themselves, getting them into a healthier spot was way more impactful than helping an athlete run a little faster, jump a little farther. And those are fun to work with because it's cool. Yeah, but impact, that's where all my coaching is. I almost thought I was gonna I want to do all these OCR, obstacle course racing athletes. I want to do all this stuff, and I like them because I get a lot of excitement out of. But the impact is so much less in my eyes. So that's the gist of the people I like to work with, and that's the stuff I like, that impact.
Oh yeah, I think it's more value. You still provide a lot of physical fitness education and different. You're more, because you got away from the weights. Yeah, bodybuilding is, it's always going to be popular, and I think it's very much geared toward the young bloods. But when you get a little older, you realize functionality, endurance, and high impact, just endurance is huge.
Sure. Flexibility,
It's flexibility. Being strong, but...
Speaking of endurance, Adrian just texted me back. He's like, his shoulders are sore as fuck.
From the Spartan Race.
It's understandable.
From the Spartan Race, that's what it is.
Yeah, so when I say, speaking of endurance, we did a 10K, we did a Spartan Super yesterday, Donny, and Jeff and I was in a worse way this morning, probably than these two gentlemen, but Adrian did say he went to the gym, so
it's good. So he was moving.
He's moving. I think
it's better.
You need to move.
From a recovery perspective, Jeff, is that probably the best thing you could do? Yeah,
at the end of the day, I think the worst thing you can do, and if anything hurts, unless it's extreme, is to stay still and do nothing. Yeah. So, if your ankle's sore or your shoulders are sore, you're just sitting there, you're just kind of static. When you start moving, you're going to pump blood into that area. You're going to start to circulate more oxygen, nutrients to start to heal that area. And then that circulation of blood flow helps it heal it, but also sometimes is it really that sore or just really stiff? And sometimes you'll know that difference. But movement's king. And like you were talking about, the bodybuilding side being more of a young thing, which is so true. And that's the majority of the people that want to do that. When you get in your 40s, 50s, the thing is you go from maybe that heavy bodybuilding style, but you get into more of the, I'm going to work out 2-3 days a week and focus on strength training, because as you get older, you lose muscle mass, you lose bone density, you start to, your quality of life just starts downhill. You're scared to fall and break a hip. So I work with a lot of clients like that too. It's funny. I walked into the new gym and I have an 80-year-old client, a 76-year-old, and a 74-year-old at my new gym that I work with. And it's I want better balance. I want to be strong. I don't want to lose my muscle. I don't want to break a hip. And I want to feel confident going for a 3-mile walk with my husband. But it's such different perspectives. The races we just did, the training, the boxing, all the stuff that you do, Kyle. And then you get the person that's just I want to feel good and live to 85, 90 pain-free. And it's such a different perspective, but that's the fun. Yeah. And that's where it's I love bodybuilding. I train like a hybrid athlete. I strength train 3 days a week. I still lift heavy, but I'm running 4 to 5 days a week. Yeah. And that's my role. But I also, with the content I post, I've been a little inconsistent lately, but I want to put the message of your only limit is yourself. So the big race I'm doing at the end of the year, there was a 70-year-old that did this race. It's I hate the idea that people limit themselves, and most of it's because of fear, and then you make these constant excuses. Yeah, it's just constant excuses, and you are capable of so much you think, and I didn't think it was possible. I ran a 5K back in 2018 after being a professional bodybuilder, and my ankle hurt, my knee hurt, and I look back, and this is funny to look back, because you can look back how far you've come. 5 years later, I'm about to do a 24-hour race for the second time. So it's just. But you have to take those baby steps. Yeah. It's a this is a long journey. If you try to do it overnight, you're screwed.
Yeah, pain mitigation is, because I'm older, pain mitigation is something I'm struggling with, because I need to change it up and do something different. Yeah. Stretching, it helps, but I do find when I stretch, if I'm not moving and running, I might have more back pain or more
Makes
pain
sense.
in certain areas, right? Because movement just keeps you...
Dude, walking is the best thing. I think the research I've seen more recently is the average person in America moves 3,000 to 4,000 steps a day.
Yeah. Even running helps my back.
Yeah.
I run my back.
Sure. So you're sore, and then you do more work, and you actually feel better.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I feel better than I went to the gym today, even after yesterday.
Right. And anything over 7,500 steps, there's a health benefit. That's where the data is solid. 10,000, there's even a better one. And then it tapers around that 15,000 mark, where you're still super healthy and you're active and moving, but there's not a crazy health benefit. So to your point, just go. If you're just sitting on a couch all day, or you're working in an office, it's if you can just go walk for an hour, that, there's gonna be huge benefits to that health-wise, pain, energy.
For a half hour.
15 minutes twice a day is 30 minutes. I think that's the other thing. You don't have to walk for a consistent hour. Can you get out for 10 minutes 3 times a day? You're still walking for 30 minutes. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. And that's little things where in your 20s and even in your 30s, walking for 30 minutes. This is crazy, but it's but it adds up as you get older. Those are little things that make a difference.
I had a friend, Jalen, who was a really good skateboarder back in the day, and I remember he would have to pick his sister up from school at Drury High School. And do you remember Jalen?
Yeah.
And he would literally go on one of the Williamstown skate park, and we're like, dude, it's 2:00. You have to be at the school to pick up your sister in half an hour. He's like, I'll get 10 minutes in. Yeah. But he got the 10 minutes in, and he had a different perspective on that. And I'm like, and then one time he goes, we're up late or whatever. We were hanging up at our place up in the mountain, and he goes, I think I'm gonna join the skate or the Pittsfield skate competition tomorrow. I want to win some shirts and some skate. I'm like, so you're saying you're gonna win? And he's like, it's kind of yeah, probably. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go there, because I don't know if you're actually gonna win or not, because this is you're being a little cocky right now. It's midnight, and we're a little under the influence.
He's like, I probably will. Yeah.
He's like, I need a new couple skateboard decks and a couple shirts. So I'm like, all right, I'm free tomorrow. I'm gonna go there, see what's going on. So I go to the skateboard competition. He's hitting quarter pipes, doing I'm like, what the? So he won.
Awesome.
The moral of the story is that he would take every opportunity, because he loved what he did, to get better at it. And even sometimes I try to squeeze in the gym or whatever, but it's so easy to let those thoughts creep in and just say, oh, I don't have enough time today. And honestly, even leading up to the race, I was like, oh, I had this hike and, I got to rest for the race and blah, blah, blah. I was asking you for advice, but it's like just putting in that little bit of work, it compounds, right? It's like even what we're trying to do, like block by block, like you get to a certain point and then it starts to be exponential. And I think that's what people don't realize. I saw Jocko Willick. It's Willick. He little thing today, but he's like 100 days. He's like 1 day at the gym, 5 days, 10 days at the gym. You're not going to see shit. But if you go to the gym for 100 days, you play the guitar for 100 days, you are going to see some serious results. And that 100 days doesn't need to be 100 days. It's 10 minutes here. It's 30 minutes there. That's kind of what Jeff's pointing at, I think, and what he has for me, and just having that accountability. Even having Jeff has held me accountable, or being in an accountability group with like BK and those guys. Yeah, it just fucking do it. Like just do it.
And here's the thing too. I think there's two sides to me, and this is the funny thing. This is where I think I used to be very on one side, and now I've learned to be on both. I think I have a side of me that is like, I'm obsessed with David Goggins. Like I want the Goggins mentality. You're gonna dig deep, suffer, do what you got to do. Like life's tough, suffer. Okay, so I have that side of me as an athlete or as a person, as a coach. But then I had to develop probably over the last 4 or 5 years, like it was super, super compassion for everybody, right? Yeah. So here's the thing,
right? I was going to ask him about compassion. Yeah, that plays in
because everyone's like wants to be the motivator coach, the hype up coach, the yell, and some people need to get that here and there. Months go by, they're struggling. Sometimes you got to dig into that David Goggins, let's go, suck it up. But then the other compassionate side is you have to listen as a coach more, and I've been really bad at that for over years at times where you get caught up as clients as numbers, clients as this, and you lose that to the person, and so you lose track of the little stuff. But if you could be very compassionate and understand their circumstances, understand their life, and then teach them that they don't have to be perfect, because most people don't want to let you down, they don't want to let themselves down. They won't. So, but then when you start a program, if they can't do it perfect, they're a failure. So like being compassionate, understanding like, hey, they have 2 kids, they have this situation. You don't have to work out every single day. Like if you miss a week, you're not a failure, so that's huge, but that goes against the Goggins side of it. Right. So you have to know when to implement both and how to, each client is so different. Yeah. But I think compassion is like everything as a coach, because when you're compassionate and you listen to someone, next thing you know, they're with you way longer. They know you're in it to help them. And then you can dig into the other side. But compassion, I definitely think, comes first in building their trust and show you're there because you actually want to help them.
Yeah, I think just having compassion as a skill that you develop is something that is not really thought of that way, right?
No.
You if you're brought up a certain way, or if you sort of been, put in a position where you got to be hard for some reason, whether it be military service or doubles in football or whatever the hell it is, there is a balance that you got to strike, and to each individual too that you're dealing with. Passion is such an underrated trait. We as men, would benefit greatly from a world filled with more compassionate gentlemen, honestly. And it's uncomfortable a bit to think of it that way, but at the same time, we're missing so much of it in this world. And
that's really beautiful, Rudy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you where it's coming from. So this book, it's called Reinventing Masculinity, and I was listening to it. Sam Thomas recommended it, a love expert. It's a very uncomfortable listen if you're any type of hard mentality, like, which I am. Like I don't put up with excuses. Right. But if you listen to this book, it'll say just it's okay to be compassionate and give a better maybe some guidance rather than think of it as an excuse. So it's an underrated trait. I wanted to say that, and I've been listening to this book about it, so I needed to speak up on it. So it's cool that you went there.
Yeah, and I think to your point with that is, so I have an example with being like living and dying by that Goggins, like no excuses mentality is. So last year when I was doing that 24-hour World's Toughest Motor Race, I went into the race with like, I'm going to be so hard. I'm not going to break. You can't break me. Like I was almost like going into it with such a angry attack it mentality. Like I'm going to suffer. I'm going to do this. And when shit hit the fan, I got mad at myself because I wasn't living up to this expectation. I have to be tough. Where I've learned in this last year, talking to these guys that do 200 plus mile race. I met a guy who did 3 200-mile races in 9 weeks. And it's crazy but he's so kind. He's a dog. But like in the middle of the race, he gives himself grace when he's hurting. And he's like, okay, you're hurting. It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Like, and you don't have to be like mad all the time. Mm-hmm. So he's like, enjoy the pain, find comfort in your weakness. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's something he talks about. So when you suck at hills, understand it's going to suck. Just like, you're going to get through it. Don't get mad at yourself. Keep moving. Like, so it's just this mentality of,
I mean, it's huge. It's more effective to say to somebody, you can do it. Like, I'm right here with you. Keep going, keep going. Like, I used to do that with the chubby kids on the football team who couldn't, run the hill. Like, I'd run it with them and be like, I'm not, there's such a difference between being like, that's bullshit. Like, shut up. You just work through it. Like, it's pain. Guess what? Life is pain. Like, sure, I guess that's all. I don't know. It'll help you shatter ceilings at a fast rate if you buy into it. But I think it's more effective and more optimal if you treat somebody like you can do it. Like if you just say that, they're gonna believe it. And if you're doing it with them, obviously, sure. But I don't know. I think. Yeah, it's compassion is good to have. I don't. Rewriting masculinity sounds like an interesting.
Honestly, that sounds like so.
You got to show people grace. Like you got like the tip of the week. Like.
Well, yeah, like you were saying too. So it's a cool stat. Like so, again, I love the sports psychology side or just the mental side. And the first piece of this is which is interesting. So like my favorite thing that I learned in a master's in sports psychology. Is my favorite thing in the world is the most impactful thing for me with athletes or people is self-talk. So
it's positive or negative.
Yeah. So here's the interesting
coach,
piece.
You should be very positive.
You should, but here's the interesting thing. So there's a book called The Art of Neutral Thinking. And so when you say something out loud, so they did a bunch of data, it was down in Harvard, and they kind of combined all these different studies. And what it came out to show is when you say something out loud, so specifically think out loud, it's 1 to 2 times more impactful than thinking it. So if you think something positive, you say it out loud, it's 1 to 2 times more powerful. You're like, well, that's important. That's awesome. But what it also did show is when you say something negative out loud, it's 4 to 7 times more impactful. So the simple fact of I'm like in a race or just in life, like, oh, my day's bad. Oh, my day's bad. I'm tired. Oh, this thing, the guy cut me off. So you start going down this rabbit hole that is so much more impactful than negative things you're saying into your subconscious mind, and it's influencing your reality. So saying to your point, Kyle, it makes complete sense. Saying something positive is super helpful, but it's also almost more important to limit just speaking the negative into existence because it's programming your subconscious mind even more. And then we have like 70,000 thoughts a day on average, and they say like between 75 and 80% of them are negative, and that's part of like society. So it's we have so much going on.
It sells, right? It sells in the media, it sells everywhere, and I think that, putting that, it's like affirmations, right?
Yeah. Positive is awesome.
Out there for a long time.
Yeah, but there is something to be said about like that tenacious, like, fuck that. Like if I'm mad,
you need it.
Or if I get hit, or like, in fighting or whatever,
100%.
running, like it's
it didn't
hit me in the head this time.
But I do have compassion for Dave though, because Dave was at a wedding last night. He was doing his thing. And he was probably boogieing on the dance floor.
Dave was hungover.
And Dave is still here.
Yeah,
pushing through, powering through with that Goggins mindset.
Yes, but Jeff, like there is that, like there's something motivating when I'm running and I'm getting really tired. And I picture sparring, or I picture whatever, and I'm like, you just tell yourself like, oh, fuck that, like stop being a bitch.
Yeah,
fucking run. Like,
100%.
There is something.
Oh, it's 100%.
There was some of that yesterday.
There was, dude. I was like, dude, there's no way I would stop if these guys are stopping.
It's like that anger that, like, it fuels you.
Yeah, and I think like I 100% like even it's true. 100% backs it. You have to be able to dig deep. And to your point, I mean, most of society, in my opinion, are very soft when it comes to getting uncomfortable. Like having that mentality of like digging deep, like, oh, this is hard. that's where you're like, dude, suck it up. Like, this is fucking tough. Like, you have to get through this. Like,
be tough.
100%. 100%. And I guess that mentality for me, when like bringing that up, is once you get to a certain level, there's only so much like hate and anger that can push you. There's certain, and I guess in the endurance, right, you got to let go of a little bit. But the average person, like, they have to suck it up way more. And it's tough because sometimes to get them, if you go to, I guess as a coach, and I think that's where your point makes a ton of sense, and mine is in a different spot where I'm like, but I pushed too hard too early with some people, and then they shut off.
Yeah.
You know, but as an athlete, as a boxer, like, dude, if you know, it's that fine line of like, you got hit, you got to dig deep, and you got to fight your way through this like dark spot where like you're gonna get knocked out if you don't. At the same time, if you ramp up so much energy so early, and someone is a little less energy and a little less chaotic, they can bob and dip and weave to find that sweet spot. Like if you fight in jiu-jitsu or UFC like angry, and you get rolling with someone, you're gonna gas.
Oh,
so
you're
you
hit the head on the nail with something there, because people who train jiu-jitsu, there's so many people who would have been problem childs, end up in jail, and I've heard, you know, hundreds of people, because I'm into MMA and stuff like that. Me and Kyle talk about it a lot. People who train that, and actually my cousin's son Gavin is doing it now, and he's loving it, and he just won his first tournament, which is awesome.
And Rob's Jiu-Jitsu Joe.
Yeah, Rob's Jiu-Jitsu Joe. It teaches you so much about yourself and the discipline and like physicality that it actually makes you a kinder, gentler person. Like, one of the most baddest people you know actually shows a lot of compassion because it teaches you so much about yourself. So people might say, oh, wait, football is violent or MMA is violent, but it actually does the opposite of that. It actually teaches you so much about yourself that you're able to kind of take a step back, know how dangerous you are, but actually push out a better narrative to the world almost, you know. But going back to pushing through everything, I think you were kind of referencing to momentum.
Yeah, it gets exhausting pushing through everything all the time. Sometimes you got to, like, you know, slow down a little.
You do, and it's like, but like, I think that having like momentum behind you is good. Like, I remember during my hike with James, you know, we did like whatever, we were in the high elevation.
You guys like do peyote and stuff?
No, we should have. But it was like we did like, I don't know, like 32 or 34 miles in a few days, and it was like
It's a lot.
The high elevation got to us, and it didn't on our other hikes because we were, you know, getting
the long too.
Yeah, about 12,000 feet in elevation. Anyway, we didn't sleep. We actually pulled an all-nighter basically. We flew in at 1, drove 5 hours, and then started hiking. So we made it a little harder on ourselves. And after the first day, after about 9 miles of hiking with like, you know, I don't know, like a 30 or 40 pound pack, we took a break, and I like laid down and like put my sleeping bag out, and I was like,
It feels good.
no, but it was like I was really hurting, you know. I'm like, am I gonna pass out? Like, my anxiety started going. I'm like, man, am I gonna be able to finish this? And I kind of like thought about all the hard work, everything that I've done with Jeff, just everything that led up to that point. And I'm like, and I really, honestly, I know it sounds funny, but I'm like, I'm fucking Ryan Donovan.
Yeah.
Fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm like, the wind's at my back. I'm like, everything that but I'm like, it comes like, when you really feel like that thing, like you're like, I have to get out of these mountains, you know, like you start like getting nervous, and you're like, no, fuck that. Like, everything that's led up to this point, everything that I've been through, like, I'm gonna fucking get through this regardless. I don't give a fuck if I gotta crawl off of this mountain. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I was big on mantras, like during my last race, like the one, and that was the same thing. Like, you have to keep reminding yourself of like the reasons why you got here and all that. Yeah. But my little mantra is when shit hit the fan, I was like, I'm a fucking beast. Like, I kept saying it to myself out loud by myself in Texas in the middle of the night. I have a funny video of me walking, and my friend Kat's videoing me, and I'm sitting there, I was walking, and I don't say it on camera, but it was, I wish you almost caught me before that. I'm like, let's go, man. Like, you're a fucking beast. Like, let's go, dude. Come on. Like, you're like yelling at yourself because you're just dipping. And that's where you're a perfect example. You got to suck it up, and like, you got to go. Because, and I think as we're talking about it, and that's been a change this year. Like, if I'm training for a year for a race, you can't have it pedal to the metal, and that mentality of just like, suck it up for a year because it's so exhausting. And it's like, bad run, move it on. But like the day of the race, like you're geared up and ready to go, but it's giving yourself a little grace in the process as long as you're still putting in the work.
Yeah, it's and we hit it on the gratitude episode and multiple episodes. Just balance, man. Right? You can't go pedal to metal all the freaking time. You're gonna burn out.
Yeah,
you're gonna burn out.
It's hard.
Have some grace with yourself, and really try. That's a skill that's developed. You know, to understand what you are doing and who. You know, what at what point are you? You know.
Yeah. There's a cool story. It's super quick, but it plays into your self-belief. And this, long story short, it's this guy. So this guy's a junior in high school. It's the same story from like the self-belief, self-talk thing. But he's a junior in high school. He's about to take his SATs. He talks to his mom. I don't want to take the SATs. The SATs are wasting my time. I'm not going to college. I'm a D student, if that. He's like, you got to take the SATs. She goes, fine. He takes the SATs. A couple weeks later, he gets the results in. He scores a 1450, which is like a 1600 is a perfect score. Mom doesn't believe him. He's like, oh, this is crazy. Like, there's no way you did this. He's like, I can't believe I passed it. Like, this is an amazing story.
Yeah.
So he's like, he passes as the SATs at 1450. All of a sudden, he's like, you know what? Like, I'm doing pretty, maybe I'm smarter than I thought I was. Senior year comes around. He's taking his test. His D's go to C's. C's goes to B's. He ends up graduating, going to a junior college, ends up going to Stanford, ends up graduating from Stanford, ends up being a VP of this big company. And then 12 years later, all of a sudden, they get something in the mail. They look at the mail. It's the SAT results. And every 12 years for this specific test, they would send people the results back. And what they found out is there was a handful of them that got the wrong grade. So next thing he knows, he opens it up. He's like, dude, I scored an 860. But his life didn't change until he started believing he was a 1450. So like he wasn't going to graduate high school. Things were going downhill. He gets a fake result back, and he's like, I'm smarter than I thought I was. And then his life changed when he actually believed he was smarter than he was.
It's incredible.
Is that a
right?
true story?
True story.
Yeah.
True story.
That's awesome.
And so the same guy wrote the book, The Art of Neutral Thinking. He passed away now of cancer pretty recently. He was one of the top mental performance coaches of the world. If you look up Alabama, he worked with with Nick Saban for a long time. And so
I've heard of it.
yeah, so super cool guy. And he tells that story, and that was life-changing for him. And that he tells that story to all the college students that he works with, because he worked at Alabama, he worked at LSU, and then he tells all these college kids, like, once you start acting like a D1 athlete or pro athlete, you'll have the opportunity to potentially be one.
And go back to compassion. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
This, but, if you think about it, right, it can go as easily the other way, too, right? We got to be aware of how we're talking to people, right? Because the minute they believe that you might, oh, that was really stupid. You're dumb. They could go down that path for
just like that
years,
kid
right?
said,
But just as easily, you're so great. Here's the test result. It's like
Power of thought.
yeah, for sure.
Really just.
He said, whoa, I'm actually pretty smart.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go to class because maybe I can go to college.
Right.
I didn't think I was that smart.
You know what I call it? Delusional confidence.
Yeah.
Which I have, by the way. I used to, when I was training the guys for the roofing company in sales, I used to just be like delusional confidence. Like, you have to believe that you're going to make the sale and you're the smartest guy in the room, and also know that they don't know everything that you know about roofs. So if you misspeak about something, you just have to blast through it and understand that you're still going to get to the end of that presentation knowing that you're doing the right thing and you have the confidence in what you're doing. I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he had Adam Sandler on recently.
Oh, I just listened to that whole thing, yeah.
So good, and so many times it's so funny. Adam Sandler's like, I was so cocky. I was so cocky. Mm-hmm. His voice, he's like, that's nasty. It's so funny.
He thought he was super attractive. He's like, dude, I was ugly.
He's like, I thought I was so cool. I thought all my auditions was amazing. And Joe Rogan's like, I just did 2 auditions and I got the first 2 gigs. He's like, dude, I did so many. I thought I did so good, But he was like, I was just so cocky. He's like, and they were talking about it. They're like, they listened to some of their old stand-ups that are recorded from 20, 30 years ago. And they're like, oh my God, it's so terrible. They're like, I would never go up there now knowing that my material was that bad. But in the moment, they were like, I'm fucking that good. He's like, I'm that fucking good. I'm that guy. And, then he's making movies, and he's one of the biggest directors, comics of all time. And it's, you have to believe in what you're doing.
Dude, Adam Sandler had swagger and Billy Madison. That was evident.
Unreal, dude. And it's you're just carrying something forward beyond yourself that you truly believe in. And I think you can get into that mind frame, and you can use momentum or things you've done in the past or whatever. But
he did a very good job you look at, it's this ongoing thing you see on social all the time. He doesn't dress like he's the man. He doesn't act like he's the man. He doesn't have this ego.
He just is.
He just is he's a generously good person. He does all these different things. I mean, I don't know him as personally, but just as a whole, you look at the things I do know about him, he doesn't have this, I'm better than you mentality. But it's having this inner ego and confidence that you both talked about, but at the same time, you're not putting anyone down to get you to the point. It's just this complete, utter, you know what? if I don't make it, well, I don't have a plan B, so we're just going to keep sending it. And then having that, because I think I still struggle with this, and it plays into my childhood of just like lack of confidence. You get rejected, something doesn't go well, you don't make a sale, and it's easy to just like, it's so hard to learn that mentality, but it's like, okay, what I learned from it, moving on. How do I continue to just keep moving forward? It's like, the more you can get into that headspace and just take those little hits, they'll get tougher.
It's such a good percent. That's such a good distinction, Jeff, because when I say delusional confidence, I am not a fan really of the fake it till you make it. Like there's something there. Again, that delusional confidence kind of sounds like that, but there's a difference. You can be delusionally confident in yourself without stepping on other people, with still being compassionate. Like you can still go put yourself out there, get on a stand-up stage, write a script, write a poem, put out your music, whatever it is, just do it like you're the best that ever did it. But it doesn't mean that, like you said, it doesn't mean you have to step on people to do it or fake anything or put anybody in jeopardy in that.
You know what I really like about the SAT story that you told was that I think our world and the society that we built is really a mirror, right? And it's people's success, and it's plaguing society now, and people know it's all on our phones. Right. It's all on social media, Instagram. We talk about it. Is that the world really perpetuates this image of success and a standard of success, maybe through universities like Stanford and Harvard and things like that. Education has it, athletics and whatever it is, business, multi-billion dollar, trillion-dollar banks, you name it, right? Our world is this construct of success that turns people in a lot of ways into a shallow version of themselves. But that SAT story, and a lot of that's true because all of that is tangible evidence. All that's objectively evidence. It's evidence of what is success, right? What is having a lot of money, or how do you get to having a lot of money, or how do you have a business, or how do you make that business successful? Whatever it is, it's going to be there, and it's like, okay, well, that person did it. However, the SAT story really shows that the world is not always the mirror lies. Mm-hmm. You look in that mirror, and maybe you're poor. Maybe you come from a family with no money. Maybe you're not good at a lot of things. Maybe you're not gifted physically, or whatever it is mentally. That person, that individual in that story, really believed he was worthless. He didn't have anything to offer the construct of society because of what we have built to define success and successful qualities at a micro level in a human being. Human beings are so much more than just what are you good at, what can you offer, what did you do for society. I mean, even just the capacity to love, to raise a child, or to love is truly should be a mark of success. But that SAT story really shows that the world and what the world hails oftentimes as great, such as maybe believing that Kamala Harris could be a good president. Hundreds of millions of people that believe that. The world is perpetuating that. Doesn't mean it's true, but really, all joking aside, it's not an accurate measure of who you are when you look at what you have. And I'm guilty of it, right? You want to maintain a certain image. Everyone does. I think that's psychologically, that's normal, but the world isn't going to reflect what a person has to offer. And it's easy to think that it's going to. It's like, well, look at this person, look at that person. I don't have that. And you spoke about this the whole time. Yeah. You spoke about the coaching aspect of it, believing in someone that believed in you. When you felt down and you felt like you were just negative about everything, and you weren't this or you weren't that, and that guy just treated you like a human. Sure. And I think that reflects his humility. Yeah. And I think that's just what is sorely lacking. I think even now, especially. But
it's all environment. That whole underlying side of it is your environment. So some of us aren't lucky enough to come up with parents that are super caring, loving, positive, that believe in you, or your friends, or the neighborhood you grew up in, and all that environment influences your ability to how successful per se you want to be. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's fiscally successful, but then the other question is what is true success? And obviously we all need a certain amount of money to survive, but what's the fine line of the priority list? Is it money? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it success? And I think a lot of people get judged even if you're if you're not making a certain amount of money, but you're happy with what you're doing, you can easily be viewed as unsuccessful in so many people's eyes, or you're not grinding or building enough and doing all this different stuff. And it's tough because, like you said, if you look at social media and you look at that, you could be making $75,000, $80,000 a year, and you're content working. You're like, dude, I'm happy working my 9 to 5. I get to home see my kids, I get to see my wife, I get to like do my workout. I'm happy with my life. But then social media says you're not making enough money. You're a failure. You're a success. Right. Or like even women now, social media is a shit show with what the stereotypical women is, and in OnlyFans and this and that. And it's like
men too, though. Men
so steroids and just juiced out of their mind, and just like it's just like you're a playboy and you make all this money.
High
you're
status.
man. Yeah, it's all status. It's like
you need to be 6'2".
Dude, my wife makes double what I make, and I'm like, if you want to make 5 times what I make, I'm super pumped. Like I know. Like I value my certain values don't change with money. Like I think it's taken me a long way to like let that ego go.
It's a sign of real confidence.
Yeah, it's just different, right? And but it takes time to get there, and it's hard.
You guys are really hitting on something right now. You really are. It's you can't take the world at its face value sometimes, and I think that it's really a breakdown in our educational system because. Even school choice, whatever. Like we don't need to get into this whole conversation now. Obviously, we're towards the end of this, but. If communities were closer, like they used to be, inside of church or whatever that may be, you're taught that you can be a mother. You don't need to make this amount of money. It's okay to be a mother. Like obviously, make sure, like you said, you have food on the table, whatever. But if you want to be a mother, that's fine. If you want to make your money, join your golf club, be in your basketball league, or go to the gym and go home. That's okay. And if you're able to raise a family and raise somebody and bring another human being into society who kind of gets an understanding, has compassion, has these different qualities that it's going to push the world forward generationally, that's fucking amazing. And so in this, Kyle, to your point, social media perpetuates this, everything's about success, everything's about sex, everything's about money. And it's really not. But I think that it does circle back to culture and community and kind of a breakdown of our society, which I really would love for us to get back. And as we build block by block, move forward, I think we want to get a little bit more into the roots of community and building up things. And
I think believing in people.
Yeah, believing in people. Even men, there's been such an attack on men, and suicides at an all-time high. We've touched on that in other episodes. It's like a lot of that is pushed through social media, and men being like, well, I go to the gym every single day for 3 years. I don't look like this kid. I mean, these kids
I don't make this much money.
Yeah, I don't make this much money, but like, dude, like some of these people who are, taking their own lives, and it's horrible. They have kids, they have a life, they have a decent job, and to think that that's not enough, it's just so sad. And anyway, part of this and part of what we want to talk about are some of these social issues, but it doesn't, and not everything needs to be global or the whole world or like even national politics, which obviously we can get into and it's important, but it's your backyard, it's the people around you. And back to Rudy's point, just telling people, hey, it's okay. You know what? You made a mistake. It's all right. But that one little thing that one person says to somebody could make the difference between them becoming a super success and pushing forward into the community or not becoming a success. And that same person could have been a detriment to society, but now that same person is now a positive to society. And if you're able to, even if you kind of sacrifice your own life, but you're able to have 2-3 kids that are a positive to society, then that's pushing something really powerful forward.
And I'll say one last thing before you finish what you need to, what we need to do. But like one of the things that helps me the most, which I try to implement more and more, is when you're having a bad day. So this is selfish of me to do this, but it helps multiple people. So like I go to Cumbies. I love my Cumbies coffee. I'm too frugal to pay like for a $4 coffee. So I'll go to Cumbies and I'm like, I search out for this like older couple usually, and like older woman, older man. They look like, they're really sweet, just objectively from the outside. And I'm like, I'm having a really bad day, but I'm gonna go buy their coffee. And me selfishly buying their coffee, I get a high off watching them like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Now, like, that helps them. They're like, oh, there's someone nice that bought my coffee. So they get this happiness. Now I feel really good. So like when I'm having a bad day, it's just so true a fact of like trying to impact someone else's life. Something as small as a coffee, it makes you feel good because you're helping them. And then they feel like, wow, society's pretty good. Or someone cared about me, buying my coffee. And it's like this little win, and like that'll boost your mood and switch your mood around when you're having a bad day by helping someone else. And those are little things. If everybody did something like that every day, if everyone one day in a coffee line just bought everyone's coffee in that line, that'd be like 100, 200, 400 people that feel really good that day. And it's like that's like a couple bucks. And it doesn't have to be money. Open the door. It's like, hey, how you doing? It's like those little things make such an impact. And then that translates to you making a bigger impact socially, society. And it's like, you know, everyone complains all the time. Everyone's negative. Everyone's this. Society's bad. The world's coming to an end. Oh my God. But like thousands, it starts with 1, 10, 100, 1,000 people start doing that. Everything starts to change.
And do what you can do. Take control of what you can take control of. And buying somebody a coffee.
Take action.
Being nice to the people around you, your friends, your family. That's something that you have control of.
Right.
Listen, maybe one day one of us or all of us will be able to change the world, but it starts in your backyard. It starts with your community, and that's really, really, really important.
Spread the love, dude.
Love.
I mean, that's it.
LOVE.
Yeah. I mean, and guys, it doesn't even have to be monetary, right? Like you said, opening doors, and or I'm thinking, I can pick up somebody's weights and bring them back to the,
It's complimenting in the gym.
Yeah.
You know how long
really
it goes?
Spots
It's crazy.
100%.
Like, you go into a gym and you just like walk up to someone randomly, like, hey man, you crushed that set. Good stuff. And they're like, yeah, pretty good. Like, it's like all of a sudden that changed their day. It doesn't cost them anything.
I've seen kids, and I'm like, I've seen you in here every day for the past 8 months. I just want to let you know that you're doing a great job. I'll skip that story for now. Now I have to tell it. Okay, so this was something. This is a little. This kind of. It was a little off topic, but it came to my mind. But I don't want to leave everyone hanging. It really played. I was playing basketball one day in the gym, and I was being an asshole because I was losing and I was pissed off and I wasn't stretched out or whatever. And anyway, a few weeks went by, and this kid who's super nice. He's this younger kid. He works out. He lost all his weight. He showed me his before and after and stuff like that. And it was like I kind of ignored him a few times. And we didn't really make eye contact. And then I just went up to him one day and I'm like, dude, you know what? I just want to let you know, man. I'm really sorry for being a real ass that day when we were playing basketball. And he's like, thank you, man.
Big of you to apologize.
No, but he's like, thank you, man. And he said that. He's like, that's big of you to say that and to kind of man up and do that. I'm like, it's been bothering me, and I just want to let you know that. And I think you're a good kid, and I've seen what you've been able to do here. And I just don't want you to think that's a reflection of what I'm up to in the world. But regardless, you didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
And it was
it's a weight off of you. It's a weight off of
exactly. It was still a net positive because a huge weight off of me, Rudy. And well, Jeff. As we kind of close out here, we're getting a little over an hour now. We do like to ask people. This is huge for us. Is out of those blocks, you can see them right in front of you. We got a cheat sheet here. What block did you like the most? Which episode did you maybe like the most? Because you're one of our loyal fans that's actually listened to most, if not all, the episodes. Which one's your favorite and why? And then we'll go into kind of what you're up to moving forward, and then maybe wrap this thing up.
So obviously, you picked them all for a reason. They all have a certain amount of impact. I think from a happiness scale, if we'll use that, from just a day-to-day that I think makes you feel the best is it goes back to me for gratitude. Because I'm reading a book right now called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And every chapter is 3 pages. It's super quick. It could be about really small topics. But it all comes back to is just being grateful for what you have. It doesn't mean you're not trying to get better, but being grateful for what you have, living in the moment, not trying to be perfect, picking your battles, all these little things, letting things go, someone cuts you off, not living it the whole day. And it all comes back to feeling great gratitude and being grateful for the situation you're in, and that life can change really quickly. And, most of us don't realize it until something happens. And for me, I think I've been reading at least a couple of chapters every single day. But it all brings me back to gratitude and being grateful for my wife, being grateful that I have 2 golden retrievers, being grateful for my friends. And it's it's easy to say, but then my friend just lost his dog, and I'm like, oh gosh, I just want to lay on the floor with my dog for the next day. And then the last couple of days, I didn't pet my dog as much as I like to. So I think it all comes back to you don't have to be over the top and preach it, but being present in your life in the moment, not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past. That'll take a lot of stress off you, and then just being grateful for the little things that you have your entire life that you've worked to get, and realize it's come a long way to get to this point, and time goes by so fast. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is that gratitude aspect, which I'm not great with all the time, but I've been really trying to focus on more.
Love it. I mean,
absolutely. And the more discomfort you chase, the more perspective you have to be grateful, I think, because you get to see
see how
and that's Jeff's slogan. God dang it,
chasing discomfort.
But it gives you it's a frame of reference, and that's something Tom Bilu,
I love Tom.
He's awesome. But it's frame of reference, and the more discomfort you chase, you realize, okay, this is attainable. I can get through this. And when you have a terrible toothache or a really bad injury, you have a different frame of reference, a perspective on that. So when the times are good and you are healthy and, whatever, like I drove 2.5 hours to get here. It usually takes an hour and 15 minutes. And I was losing my mind, but I just had to keep reminding myself, wow, like I'm grateful. I have my health. I have my mom. I'm meeting
four donuts on the way.
Yeah, I'm meeting four awesome friends to go and do this awesome podcast. Who gives a shit how long it takes to get there? It could take 5 hours. It'd be worth every second. So,
and the energy it takes to dwell upon that isn't worth it. You complain everybody all day about how long your drive was. That's not benefiting you at all.
Yeah.
It's just draining you. It makes everything else worse.
And I mentioned it to 10 people, and every time I did that, it took a little away from me, really. And I could have came in here with a better attitude, and I think that I let it affect me a little bit, but it's so important to.
It's a work in progress.
It is. It's always every single day. It really is. That's such a good way to put it.
And I'm aware of that too.
And okay, so now what are you up to in the world, Jeff? Right now, what are you doing? I kind of know the answers to some of these, but what are you doing? What are your plans for the future? What are your socials, and what do you want people to know about yourself before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a couple different things, and right now it's obviously my coaching business. 70% of it is online, so I work with mostly online clients. The nutrition coaching, the fitness coaching, writing programs, do nutrition, similar to what we do.
Yep.
So if you're someone in general that's trying to improve their quality of life in some type of way, whether you're trying to build a better physique, whether you're trying to you have all these health conditions you want to work on, you want to drop body fat, you want to get stronger. Those are the type of people I love to work with. The ones that are, maybe they're a little nervous, but they're excited for a change. So that's that business. That's taking a good amount of energy from me. Trying to build that up, help more people. All the races we've done, my race coming up, we mentioned a few times, I have this 24-hour Tough Mudder race in November. So basically this whole year been training, building up my mileage and my training, getting ready for that race. That's my, honestly, that's probably my most exciting thing. The business is awesome, but all my energy is I love, this is what keeps me going every day.
Can you explain a little bit about that race?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick breakdown. Yeah. So it's a 24-hour race, starts at noon, ends at noon. So it's a 5-mile race with 20 obstacles per lap. So, you're going in water, you're going to the monkey bars, you're getting soaked. So you're soaked multiple times every lap that you do. And then the goal is to complete as many laps in 24 hours as possible. So if you're trying to compete at a high level, you're not sleeping, you're pushing through the night. Every lap you're coming around for nutrition and things like that. So my goal is to complete 80 miles. I did 60 last year. That would be a cool achievement because you get this cool shirt at 75 miles and a medal. So who doesn't want a shirt and a medal? Yeah. So,
cool
yeah, exactly, right?
Blink.
So that's the big thing, and it goes back into a lot of the stuff we talked about. I don't expect a lot my clients to do this kind of stuff, but for me, my wife talks about this all the time. If I don't have a big goal in my life, something that I'm pushing towards, and I realize business doesn't excite me this much. And it took me years to say that. I don't get really excited by trying to market my business and make tons of money. I'll make more money, I'll be happy. But these races, pushing myself physically, I learned the most about myself, and that's where all my confidence my entire life has come from.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to be average. I hate being average, and my average doesn't relate to financials really. It's more of just physical, mental growth. Mm-hmm. I want to be something more. So that just motivates me to improve consistently.
You're doing something that a small percentage of the human population.
Yeah, and that's what excites me.
Yeah,
it's amazing. But and you know what I love too, and we talk about this all the time, me and Kyle, and all of us really, is that what really matters when shit hits the fucking fan.
Yeah.
And what you do is what matters the most. Because if you can stay up for 24 hours and you can push yourself and you can climb mountains and you can kind of do what you got to do, that's and, like I said, I don't want to get into a crazy, political thing, but I feel we're the people, we're striving to be the people. You're definitely the person that people are going to kind of be hiding behind or, counting on if shit hits the fan or, war or something ever comes to our door like it has.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things, I try to be, and I appreciate what you were saying earlier, I try to be humble, I try to be grateful, I don't think I'm better than anybody else, because I know, I may have been, athletic growing up and stuff, but, I couldn't run a mile without dying when I was 28 years old. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just through 5-6 years of work, you can get to this point. So anybody's capable of anything they want. You guys are more business savvy and successful than I am in that aspect. You're both, I was like, hey man, do you want to do a marathon? You're like, I'm trying to build a business. That's what I want to do, right? So everyone has different goals, and I talk a lot about fitness because that's what found me, but the same concepts apply. When you talked about a message to kind of lead people with, it's just realizing at the end of the day, like, find a community of people that believe in you, or a person that believes in you. That's super important. And then realize, like, no goal is unattainable. I'm not going to be LeBron James. Like, obviously that's the case, but like, at the end of the day, you're capable of pretty much almost anything you want beyond certain limitations. And anything is capable because there's a blueprint laid out how to do it. If I want to run 100 miles, I can follow a blueprint. It might take me 2-3 years to do it. I can follow a blueprint to get there. And we're all capable of more. So don't let someone else limit your growth because of their insecurities and lack of belief in themselves. Because that's what it comes from. The people that are beating you up negatively, they're talking you down, that are saying that's impossible, don't think they can do it. That's the only reason.
You're really a champion for kind of just the average person.
I appreciate
You're not
that.
an average person.
I consider myself, though, that.
I mean, but it's good that you do. I mean, but right, you have a great confidence. It's humility. You have
I appreciate
confidence
that.
based in humility. So it's really cool to hear how you've evolved and sitting down and getting to know you throughout this conversation. It's really positive. So it's
Thank
like
you.
you're a beacon for people that don't have that confidence.
Sure.
And the world needs that. Like you can only better people that can walk in a gym that look like they've never touched a weight in their life, or are way overweight, or you can only better them by believing in them and by feeling like, not even feeling like it, just knowing that they have the potential.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference.
Knowing.
It makes you a champion. Yeah, it makes you a champion for that.
I think setting goals, like you said, I need that. Like having the Spartan Race was a great goal to push the last 3
Put a
months.
date on the calendar for something.
You have to, like, even like I said the business stuff. Like I honestly have like thrown out some dates, but I don't have a hard date for the business stuff. You know, and I'll maybe talk more about that in a different episode. But you need to set dates and have realistic goals, because if you don't, then it doesn't exist in reality.
Yeah, you're very driven.
And then you're not, you're just doing things like, and it's great to be driven and do things or show up to the gym, but if you don't have a weight goal, if you don't have a timeline, if you don't have, like an event or something, then you're kind of just moving in the dark. And it's still great to be productive, but I think that's something that Jeff really highlights on and he does for himself, and he's helped me with.
Last super thing that I close it up is Elon said something cool. It's like we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10. So it's like everyone wants these goals really fast. And it's like, to get to the point where I'm doing this race, I had to be really shitty and finish at the end of these races. Or I had to be, my first bodybuilding competition, I was 22 years old. I finished 16th of 16th. My tan was falling off. I was embarrassed. I was engaged. I got divorced months later because it was an absolute shit show. She didn't believe in me. She made fun of me for the event because it lasted too long. But I came in last. 4 years later, I won my pro card. But like, and I questioned if I wanted to continue, but it's that aspect of like, your lowest lows are going to build your character to get you to the highest highs. It's just how your perception of reality is and what that does. Like how you look at any negative situation is going to change your outlook in life. So you can either look at it as like, I failed and this is the end. And maybe in the moment it's like that, but eventually that you can look back and like, that was the moment, and like it got me to here. And I've had friends in rehab and go through alcoholism and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It takes hitting rock bottom sometimes to get to that next point. And everyone has different levels of that. So your business, you lose everything. Well, are you going to give up, or are you going to like build it back up and figure it out? So it's just different for everybody.
Right. And it's not over until you yourself say it's over, right?
100%. It's up to you.
It is on you. But just going back one more time, so you want to find that community. Right? Yes. All right. And then, you want to spread the love. I think if I was to leave the episode with two suggestions here. So. That was beautiful, Jeff.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun.
Thank you for coming through in the rain and showing us what the Spartan Race is all about. I don't think I would have done it without you. So
now we'll get you in another one.
Yeah,
we'll get Kyle out there too next time.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sorry, and
it's a lot about community, a lot about building, a lot about confidence and passion, and hey, keep building. Block by block, baby.
Block by block.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it.